Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is James Miller and I'm a PGA teaching professional, and today we're going to be looking at putting. So this video is going to take place in three parts. We're going to first off look at the mentality of putting, and then look at green reading, and then we're going to talk about technique. The reason we're going to do it in that order is because I like people to have the right mentality when it comes to putting. It tends to free up their putting stroke, which tends to lead to better results. I like them to be able to read the greens so that when they have the technique right, I like people then to have an understanding of how to read a green so that they can understand then when their technique is off and when their green reading is off. And obviously last one, technique, we're going to talk about speed control, we're going to talk about how to get the ball to start on line. But we do that one last because I want people to feel comfortable and relaxed and have knowledge of what the ball's going to do before we worry about technique too much. Let's get into it. I'm standing here on the 14th green at Knot End because it's our slopier screen here, and I've got two putts lined up here, one from 3 feet, one from 8 feet. Now I've chosen those two distances for obvious reason. They tend to provide the most clear side of the right mentality when it comes to golf. So let's look at the 3-foot putt first. On tour, it's roughly 99% from 3 foot away from the hole. Now, makes kind of sense. Those guys that you see on tour are really good, and that putt's not that far away from the hole. They're also putting at very, very good greens. However, what is quite hard to believe is roughly for every inch further away from the hole you are outside of 3 foot, it's roughly 1% of putts missed, or more putts missed from that distance, to the point when we get to 8 feet out from the hole, which is where we are here. It drops down to around about 50% of putts are holed from this distance. When I started learning these percentages, for me, my putting really started to improve because I relaxed more. I understood that I didn't have to hold everything. And in fact, I started holding more putts, or at least that's what my stats are telling me. When you become less focused on the outcome and more focused on trying to make the best stroke possible, that's when I tend to see people make better putts. So understanding that you're not going to hold every putt from 3 foot, yes, you should probably hold a lot more than you do, and maybe you hold all of them, I don't know. If you understand that the difference between here and here is almost 50% of putts hold, I think it relaxes you a lot more, and you're going to find you putt the ball a lot better. I'm now 20 foot away from the hole, and the reason I've gone to this distance is because there was a test done with a robot putting. So you can imagine a robot's going to putt pretty much the same way every time, and what they found was that the robot missed kind of 50% of its putts from this distance purely due to imperfections on the green. Now, if a robot is missing 50% of its putts from this distance, you can't be too hard on yourself when you're missing putts. No matter what the distance is, there's always going to be a little bit of luck involved when it comes to putting. And yes, you can practice and you can get better, but it's not always going to be down to you. And the better that you understand that, the more likely you are to step up to a putt of this length, understand that it may or may not go in, and do your best to just put your best stroke on it and hope that it goes in. Hopefully it's little tidbits like that that make you feel better about your putting, help you relax, and allow you to put the best motion on it that you can. Let's move on to green reading. One of the best ways we can help ourselves with green reading is doing the green reading before we get to the green. So as I'm walking out to my ball here, I'm taking notice of the contours on the green and the surroundings. I don't know if it's showing up on camera or not. If it isn't, I'll put the camera in a different position in a moment to show you the slopes, but as I'm walking up to this green, I know that this side of the green is higher than that side, which means that the putt is probably going to be downhill from where I'm putting here towards the hole. That means that I need to be conscious of the speed I'm going to hit the putt. It also looks to be higher from the right side here to the left as I look towards the hole. Now I've got up to my ball. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get down behind my golf ball. You can either do this from your hunches like this, or you can just stand up straight doing it. And I just want to confirm that what I saw walking up to the green is what I'm seeing now, and it is. So the right side of this green from where I'm standing is higher than the left side. However, that slope that I was seeing on the way up here has softened on the way towards the flag, so it is going to go right to left from where I'm standing, but not as extreme as it maybe looked from the from walking up to the green. The idea is to get a baseline read or a rough guesstimate when you're walking up to the green, and then just sort of confirm it once you get behind your golf ball. You're never going to get it right 100% of the time, and you're never going to get it perfect, but if you can give yourself a range to work within, you can putt the ball to a target within that range and give yourself the best chance of holding it you can. Onto the technique of putting now. So for me, it all starts at the setup. So often a lot of the mistakes I see when it comes to putting start at setup. And the first thing I tend to see is that people are either too close to the golf ball or too far away from the golf ball. Now what this causes, in my experience, is that when people are too close to the golf ball, their eyes are outside of the golf ball, and we tend to see the putter move outside the golf ball. If they're too far away from the golf ball, I tend to see their eyes too far inside the golf ball, which tends to lead to this kind of motion where the putter moves too far on the inside. Remember, these are generalizations. People make their own compensations depending on the person, but these are the things that I tend to see when people set up in that way. So what I like to see at setup, first thing is Want to make sure that we put the putter behind the ball and point the putter where we want the ball to start. The next thing is to make sure that when we set up, our eyes are on top of, just very slightly inside the golf ball. What this will help create is a putting stroke that tends to move slightly inside, comes back on the same arc, squares up as it makes contact with the ball, and then moves slightly on the inside on the way through. I'll get on to why that's important in a moment. For me, what I like to see is that when people set up to the golf ball, put the putter behind the ball, you sort of see my feet are nice and close together, and that ball is placed in the middle of my stance. From there, I'm going to take a small medium step with my left foot, which is my front foot as a right-handed golfer, and a much bigger step with my right foot. I'm just going to get that ball somewhere near where I would have it with a fairway wood or a hybrid, so forwards the center, but not too far forwards like I'd have it with a driver. And from there, this should allow me to get the putter to move on a nice upward angle as I make contact with the golf ball, getting the ball just to pop out of its little dent in the green and then nicely roll on towards the target. The next thing when it comes to putting technique, and it's been thrown around for years, and in my opinion it's wrong, is the straight back, straight through putting stroke. The reason being that the putter sits on a slight angle, which means that the putter wants to move on a slight arc to the inside here, back up square to the golf ball, and then back on the inside on the way through. The reason that we want the putter to move on a nice arc to the inside is that it allows us to keep the putter face square to that arc. So if my putter face is pointing fairly straight towards the hole or where I want it to go, and I try and move the putter back towards straight back on this nice little straight arc there, to keep the putter face pointing square to that arc, I have to twist it closed in the backswing or twist it to point to the left. And if I don't make any compensations, when I come back to the golf ball, hopefully you can see that that arrow is now pointing to the left. However, if I swing the putter back on a slight arc, yes, that arrow is now pointing out towards the right of the hole. However, it's pointing dead straight in line with the arc of the putter or the arc the putter was moving on, so that when I bring it back without any manipulation, that putter face is pointing fairly straight towards where I want it to and where I had it starting off at. So what we tend to see is when people try and move the putter straight back and straight through is that they have to manipulate the putter face in a way that makes it point to where we want the ball to go. It's that manipulation of the putter face when we try and take the putter straight back and then straight through that is the big issue. If we don't get the manipulations matched up on the way back and then on the way through, we tend to miss the putt in either direction, left or right, depending on how you've had to twist the club face to make it point where you want to. If we get that putter moving on a much better arc, back and then through, that putter face can stay square to the arc and we do not have to manipulate it to make it point where you want to make it point at impact. However, if you are someone who tries to putt with the putter going straight back and straight through and you putt really well, obviously keep doing it. I'm here to help you get better, and if the way you putt best is to have the putter move straight back and straight through, keep doing it, because we just want to keep holding putts, don't we? The first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to getting better at putting, improving your putting technique, is going to be speed control. To me, speed control is the most important thing. How hard you hit a putt determines how the line you're going to take. So getting better at your distance control when it comes to putting is certainly going to help you hold more putts, but also hopefully help you have less three putts as well. So when it comes to practicing speed control and when it comes to practicing putting in total, for me, a tee is your best friend. So the reason we use a tee is A, it's a very small target, so we can be very precise when it comes to trying to putt to it. But also if we're putting to a hole, when it comes to golf, in terms of the mentality of it, putting towards a hole tends to make the outcome quite binary in terms of the ball went in the hole or it didn't, and we tend to determine success that way. So I've got 3 tees set out here, roughly 10 foot between each one. So I've got the first one at 10 foot, the second one at 20 foot, and then the last tee there at 30 foot. So what I would get people to do, or what I'd like people to have to go at, is I want them to practice putting, have a practice stroke looking at the tee, determine how hard they want to hit the ball to get the ball to go there. They're going to step up and they're going to try and putt towards that tee and see if we can get the ball to stop as close as possible to that tee. We do that for each tee, so I'm going to try now. I'm going to try and go for the 30, so I like to see people mix it up as well, so they don't get too used to hitting the ball a certain distance, because when we're putting on the golf course, we don't get a 10-footer, then a 10-footer, then a 10-footer, and then a 20-footer, and a 20-footer, and a 20-footer. The distances vary, so we need to be good at varying our speed control. So now I'm going to try and head it towards the 30-foot putt. So I'm going to have some practice strokes looking at the tee. Now the reason we look at the tee, or the reason I like people to look at the tee, is like when we talked about chipping. If we were to throw a ball at a target, we'll be looking at that target when we're throwing the ball there. However, when it comes to golf, we don't do that. So we need to get our judgment best when we look at the target. And I like people to do that with the practice strokes because we don't tend to look at the hole or the tee when we're having our actual shots. You can definitely try putting looking at the target, but I like people to do it at least if they do it with their practice stroke. Let's see how we go. Oh, that's not bad. So both those putts sort of ended up within a foot of the tee. To me, that's success. I'm not going to miss too many 1 foot putts, and that's why I like using the tee, because it gives me a good small target to focus on. It also takes away the pass fail of if the ball went in the hole or not, particularly when it comes to speed control. That is exactly what we're trying to do. We want to get the ball as close to that tee as possible, and the better you are at doing that, the better your putt. Once we get our speed dialed in, we want to make sure we get the ball started on the right line, and that's what this next drill is going to help us with. So I've obviously got tees again, because once again, tees are your best friend when it comes to putting. But what I've got here is I've got a gate drill, where my putter is going to try and fit between these two tees here, and I've got another gate here where I want the ball to start through. Now, our greens have just been verticut, so they're a little bit bouncy. So I've made the tees up here for the golf ball fairly generous, just in case you get the odd bounce here and there. You don't have to use the gate drill, but what I like to work on whilst I'm working on start direction is I want to make sure that my strike is right as well, so that they're just going to help in my distance control as well. So what we'll do, set up behind the ball, try and point the putter through the gate. Now, the ball doesn't have to go in the hole for this to be a success. It has to go through my start direction. And so you could use this when putting towards tees as well. You can combine the speed control drill with the start direction drill. But the point is that I get the ball through the forward tees and my putter through the other tees without hitting either one. Not necessarily that the ball goes in the hole. Cool. So that was a success. I've made the ball go through the forward tees. My putter went through those tees without making contact with either one. Now I can make this harder by moving the tees closer together. So these tees are just outside a ball width apart. And make it fractionally harder for myself. So the forward tees are roughly about a foot in front of where the golf ball is to start off with. See how we get on with this one. Oh, ball almost bounced back in the hole. So 2 successful putts there. That tells me that I've got my putter face pointing in the right direction when I make contact with the golf ball, and my putter is moving back into impact where it started off with. Try those 2 drills out, give them a go before you play, and I'm confident you'll see an improvement in your putting. That's all from me for now. If you have any questions about anything I've spoken about in this video, please post in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'll see you all again soon. Don't be too hard on yourself with the putting. Take it easy. Give it your best. Practice it lots. You should find you improve more. Thanks all for watching. Catch you later.